The city is under siege. Kael and Lyra lead their team as Thorne, Riven, and Seraphine counter Vaenar's forces. Subscribe to Turmoil Studio to follow the adventure. Night never fully left Terenfall. Even as dawn tried to rise, it fractured against smoke and drifting ash, its pale light bleeding through broken rooftops and shattered towers like a wounded thing struggling to breathe. Fires still burned in pockets across the city, their embers glowing beneath collapsed beams and fallen stone. The streets were carved with scars, trenches from Titan chains, claw marks from Voidtalons, blood darkened into the cracks of cobblestone. Terenfall lived, but it did so on borrowed breath. Kael moved through the eastern quarter with measured steps, sword drawn but lowered, eyes scanning every shadow, every window, every collapsed archway. His armor bore fresh damage, layered over old, scorched edges, catching faint light. The city was quiet. Too quiet. No screams, no alarms. Only the distant groan of damaged structures, settling under their own weight. He had learned to fear this silence more than battle. Silence meant planning. From above, wings cut the air. Voidtalons descended without warning, shrieking as they plunged between towers like living blades. Kael reacted instantly, blade flashing upward as the first creature struck. Steel met corrupted talon in a shower of sparks, the force driving him back several steps. He twisted, slashing through the creature's wing, sending it crashing into a collapsed market stall. Another dove from behind, jaws snapping inches from his shoulder before an arrow tore through its skull mid-dive. Lyra stood on a broken bell tower, feet braced against fractured stone, bow already singing again. She moved with relentless precision, arrows flowing in controlled rhythm. Release, knock, release, each shot anticipating movement rather than reacting to it. Voidtalons fell in spirals of smoke and feathers, smashing into walls and streets below. Her jaw was set, eyes sharp, mind calculating trajectories through chaos. "They're probing again," she called, voice carrying across the rooftops. "Same pattern, faster timing. They're learning," Kael replied, parrying another strike as a shadow soldier lunged from an alley. His blade cut through corrupted armor, but two more replaced the fallen instantly, blades scraping against stone as they advanced in perfect spacing. This was no random assault. It was measured, coordinated. Across the northern streets, Thorne led a defensive line through a maze of debris-choked avenues. Twin blades spun in tight arcs, cutting down advancing shadows while he barked commands to exhausted defenders. "Hold the corner. Rotate shields. Do not chase, hold the line." His strikes were brutal, efficient, every movement designed to control space rather than dominate it. Yet even he felt it. The pressure tightening, the enemy forcing decisions, pulling defenders thinner with every feint. A tremor rolled through the ground. Stone cracked. Debris rattled. From beneath the western bridge, chains dragged forward in grinding arcs. Sparks spraying across the streets as a Warden-class Titan emerged from smoke and dust. Its massive frame loomed between ruined towers, corrupted sigils glowing faintly along its armored plates. Each step sent shockwaves through the city, collapsing weakened walls and throwing defenders off balance. Panic rippled through nearby civilians. Seraphine stood among them, the child held close against her chest, golden aura pulsing outward in controlled waves. Fear pressed against her senses like a tide, but she held fast, extending light through shattered streets, guiding civilians away from the Titan's path. "Move now," she urged, gently but firmly, her voice cutting through screams. The child pulsed brighter, responding instinctively, anchoring her power amid chaos. The Titan roared. Kael charged. He leapt from a broken stairwell, blade blazing as it struck the Titan's knee joint. Sparks exploding on impact. The massive construct staggered but did not fall. Chains snapped outward, smashing into nearby buildings, tearing stone from stone. Lyra's arrows struck its eyes, slowing its advance, while Thorne surged forward, blades carving into exposed joints. Shadows swarmed around its legs, defending it with suicidal precision. From the rooftops, Riven moved like a storm given form. He dropped silently into the fray, fists cracking against shadow soldiers with explosive force. Each strike shattered corrupted armor, bodies flying into walls and collapsing in lifeless heaps. He pivoted, struck again, momentum carrying him through clusters of enemies before vanishing into smoke. But even as he fought, his eyes tracked patterns, formations shifting too perfectly to be coincidence. "They're guiding us," he muttered, dispatching another assassin mid-lunge, forcing reactions. As if summoned by the thought, the pressure intensified. Voidtalons returned in greater numbers, diving in coordinated waves that forced Lyra to shift positions repeatedly. Shadows advanced in staggered formations, sacrificing front lines to expose defensive weaknesses. Another tremor shook the ground, then another. A second Warden-class Titan emerged from the southern quarter. 2 Titans. The realization hit like a hammer. Kael's breath caught for a fraction of a second, long enough for a corrupted blade to nearly pierce his side. He twisted away just in time, countering with a lethal strike. But the cost was clear. The enemy wasn't testing anymore. They were committing, and somewhere within the chaos, someone watched. Sir Vaelric stood atop a ruined aqueduct, armor blackened, sword resting at his side. Smoke curled around him as he observed the battlefield with cold, calculating focus. His eyes followed Kael's movements, Lyra's firing arcs, Riven's explosive strikes. When he moved, it was deliberate, slipping into combat zones just long enough to eliminate a key shadow commander, then vanishing again, leaving gaps that forced defenders to reposition. He was not aiding them, he was shaping them. Back in the streets, the Titans pressed forward. Chains lashed out, crushing defensive lines, forcing Thorne to split his forces to protect civilians fleeing through narrow alleys. Seraphine's aura flared brighter as debris rained down, shielding groups trapped beneath collapsing structures. The child pulsed rapidly now, its energy amplifying her light, but the strain etched lines of exhaustion across her face. "Kael!" Thorne shouted over the din. "We can't hold both fronts." Kael hesitated. A single heartbeat. That hesitation fractured everything. He chose the eastern line, surging toward the more densely populated quarter, blade flashing as he carved a path through shadows and intercepted a Titan strike aimed at a collapsing shelter. The decision saved dozens, but left the northern line thinner, exposed. The enemy exploited it instantly. Shadows poured through the gap, overwhelming defenders. Riven fought to contain them, fists slamming into armored bodies, but the sheer volume forced him back step by step. Lyra shifted fire to cover him, arrows flying faster, sharper, but even her precision strained under the pressure. Vaelric watched the choice unfold and smiled just slightly. The battle raged through the morning, medieval city streets transforming into killing grounds. Towers fell, bridges cracked, fire and shadow clashed against steel and light in relentless waves. Every victory came with a cost. Every saved life demanded another sacrifice elsewhere. By midday, the shadows withdrew, not routed, not defeated, but satisfied. Voidtalons vanished into smoke-choked skies. Wardens retreated behind shattered walls, chains dragging sparks as they fell back. The city was left standing amid ruins, defenders bloodied, exhausted, breathing hard amid drifting ash. Silence returned. It pressed down heavier than before. Kael stood at the center of a ruined medieval square, chest heaving, sword lowered. Around him, survivors gathered, some wounded, some shaken, all alive. He should have felt relief. Instead, doubt coiled in his gut. Lyra descended from the tower, arrows nearly spent. Riven wiped blood from his knuckles, eyes dark with unease. Thorne surveyed the damage, already recalculating defenses, jaw tight. Seraphine knelt beside the injured, aura flickering as she tended wounds, the child's glow dimming as exhaustion took hold. High above, the skyward guardian circled silently, wings slicing through smoke, watching without intervention. From the shadows of a collapsed bridge, Sir Vaelric turned away, cloak dissolving into darkness. The city had survived, but the fracture had begun. Terenfall still stood, its unity did not. And somewhere beyond the ruins, the Eclipse adjusted its grip. Ash still drifted through Terenfall, stinging eyes and lungs as weakened structures groaned and collapsed without warning. Fires reignited beneath broken beams, spreading along fractured rooftops. The city's silence shattered as cries rose from deeper quarters. Kael moved immediately. "Search lines. No one alone," he ordered, sword already lifted. "They haven't left." Defenders fanned out through alleys and marketplaces. Lyra reclaimed the heights despite shaking arms, eyes tracing patterns etched into the streets by ruin and blood. The realization struck hard. They had not attacked randomly. They had mapped every response. "They know us now," she muttered. Riven felt it too. Shadows fell too easily beneath his fists. Resistance calculated, deliberate, confidence bait. The warning barely left his mouth before a horn sounded low, distorted, echoing through stone. From sewers, basements, and collapsed structures, shadows surged again. Not waves, blades. Assassins struck at the wounded. Wardens advanced in precision ranks. Seraphine spun as the child pulsed violently, aura flaring just in time to shield civilians from converging blades. Light burned shadows back, but the strain forced a sharp gasp from her chest. She steadied herself, refusing to falter. Chains thundered. The ground split as a titan erupted from beneath a residential square, tearing buildings inward. Civilians vanished into collapsing earth. Kael charged through falling stone, intercepting a crushing strike meant for those trapped at the breach. Steel screamed against corrupted armor as Lyra's arrows struck glowing sigils, slowing the monster's advance. Thorne reorganized defenses mid-collapse, sacrificing ground to open escape routes. Riven hurled himself into the breach, fists detonating against shadow ranks as debris fell around him. Above the chaos, Vaelric descended briefly, blades severing titangent chain anchors with surgical precision. The Titan staggered, but lived. Vaelric vanished again, leaving devastation unresolved. The skyward guardian circled lower, ash spiraling beneath its wings, still silent. The battle dragged through dusk into night. Orders conflicted, lines bent. Every choice saved lives somewhere and doomed others elsewhere. When the shadows finally withdrew, it was not retreat, but completion. Terenfall stood once more, barely. Fires smoldered. Survivors gathered in exhausted silence. Seraphine moved among the wounded, aura dim, the child's glow reduced to a faint pulse. Lyra watched the skyline, arrows spent. Riven stared at bloodied hands. Thorne studied the ruins, already seeing the next strike. Kael stood at the center of it all, feeling the weight settle deep. High above, the skyward guardian turned away, and far beyond the city walls, the Eclipse adjusted, having learned exactly what it needed.